Hi guys, welcome back to the RebelEngineer YouTube channel. Have you ever considered how your career choices impact your overall quality of life? In today's video, I'll be talking about work-life balance and its often underestimated significance in career decisions. As you probably know, many individuals prioritize securing a job without considering their long-term goals or personal fulfillment. There are many misconceptions about work-life balance. The first misconception is it is very common for individuals to enter the workforce without considering the idea of work-life balance at all. Many see work and life as opposing forces rather than complementary aspects. Let me elaborate on this. When applying for a 9-to-5 job, most people don't contemplate their work-life balance. They often perceive work as something separate from their personal lives. This can stem from desperation for employment or simply not knowing what they truly want to pursue. This is especially true for early career college grads. They don't really think about what they want to do in life, or they're just being desperate for a job to pay back their student loans, car loans, etc. or both. And this misconception keeps going on and on throughout their career. The second mistake that people usually make about work-life balance is they strive for work-life balance as opposite forces. Influential figures like Simon Sinek and Jeff Bezos advocate for achieving work-life harmony, not work-life balance. They emphasize finding one's calling and aligning it with their work. Let's take a moment to listen to their insights. So I have a couple of clips here from Simon Sinek and another interview with Jeff Bezos here, but I'm just not going to play them. I'm just going to show it to you. In this particular video, Simon Sinek actually talk about work-life harmony, the way you should treat work and life in harmonious way, and viewing work and life balance as working together and not opposing forces. Here is another video from Summit. It is a Jeff Bezos interview where he actually talk about having work-life harmony. So essentially, I'm just going to recap it for you. Jeff Bezos here, he talks about how satisfaction at work is going to affect your life, and then satisfaction in your life is going to affect your work. So essentially, work and life should work in tandem and not opposing forces. Essentially the two videos that I would recommend you watching them. So if you have finished watching these videos, as you can see, it is about finding your passion and integrating it into your career. One of the books that I recently read about work-life balance, and I believe everyone should read that book, is the Feel Good Productivity book by Ali Abdaal. Please note that I'm not being sponsored by Ali Abdaal here. I recommend the book because it is extremely good. It really helped me to follow what matters in my life, like opening and running this YouTube channel besides going to my 9-to-5 job. Okay, this leads us to our next misconception. The third misconception revolves around belief that pursuing your passions means that you can work endlessly without burnout. This is far from the truth. Employers may promote this idea to push employees to work harder, or as I call it, push for 996 performance on a 9-to-5 salary, or push for an 80 hours work week on a 40-hour salary, just so that you keep your job just over broke. The truth is, you can totally work on something you are passionate about and still get burnout. You can take this from me. I'm a senior software engineer, ex-Google, ex-Tesla, with side contract gigs and this YouTube channel, who is also actively interviewing for my next gig. Even though software engineering, YouTube and lead code and system design are all my favorite stuff, I'm still burnt out sometimes from doing YouTube videos. I'm still burnt out sometimes from doing lead code and programming and system design. You need to understand that burnout does not discriminate based on passion. First of all, we all have certain health limits that we can push and certain responsibilities beside work. I call them life maintenance tasks. We can only delay or procrastinate for so long on these tasks until they come back creeping in and wreaking havoc on our work performance. Second, even if you are working on something you like, there are still small things that you don't like, that you have to do to be able to do things that you like. That's also another place where burning out coming in. In the workplace, that may mean going to meetings. In your side hustle, that may mean dealing with tax returns, the bank's loan officer, administrative side of your side hustle. Burnout can creep in when you least expected it. In other words, there is no perfect passion, profession, or calling that won't burn you out. Mainstream media and CEOs push false productivity narratives a lot. Many CEOs are pushing for employees to work harder, contribute more. As we all know, people becoming CEOs mostly thanks to their ability to shift blames, and thus they have little to no clue about leadership, let alone engineering leadership in a tech organization. Here are some examples. Wayfair CEO tells his employee they need to work harder. It is like saying that his employees are being lazy. If the company is not doing well, it is because of his performance. He's not being a good leader here. He does not know how to lead his company properly, and he shifts that blame to the employee. He thinks that, hey, the company is doing badly because of employees are being lazy. Essentially, that's his point right here. Okay, the next CEO that I would like to show you is Tim Gurner, CEO of Gurner Group. He's a billionaire. And he said Unemployment has to jump to put arrogant workers in their place. Essentially, he means that workers are being lazy, they are being entitled. Unemployment needs to jump to put them in their place. So he's trying to create this fear to force his employees and probably other employees to work harder. Next article, right? Elon Musk demands Twitter employees to commit to extremely hardcore culture or leave. Right? So essentially, CEOs are trying to push people to work harder, contribute more, etc. As I said in another video, there's no limitation to working harder. There's no limitation to pulling in more hours. And also, this is not the way to go in the long run. And we'll talk about this in the next couple points. But again, CEOs are trying to push people to contribute more. Otherwise, they need to get out of the company. It's not just Elon Musk. Your boss probably wants you to put in long hours at high intensity too. Many employers want their workers to be available 24/7. Even if that is an unrealistic expectation. Yes, it is very unrealistic. And it's actually really bad in the long run. They're gonna burn out. Of course, you can just end up firing the burnout employees, but that's not sustainable. You have to onboard and retrain all the employees that got burnout and fired. Here's another article. Google CEO Sundar Pichai says productivity is not where it needs to be. There are real concerns that our productivity as a whole is not where it needs to be for the headcount we have. How do we eliminate waste and stay entrepreneurial and focused as we grow? And yeah, so essentially CEOs are trying to push for employees to work harder and spend more hours of work, pulling in more hours. Essentially, that's what they want. Okay, so here's another article about Google again. Google demands its employees work with more hunger or else. Yes, this happened last year, I believe. Yeah, it's a year like Meta told managers to force out laggards who are coasting and failing the company as it grapples with slowing revenue growth and the increasing threat of a recession. Yeah, I don't believe all these are gonna work. I mean, you got to find employees that actually are sold on the company mission. Only the employees that actually are passionate and actually want to pursue the company's mission, which is really hard, right? It's a hiring issue. It's not just like productivity issue. This is a management issue. I worked at Google before, so I understand this. Many work at Google got delayed, not because of the employees, to be honest. The system is very sluggish and slow, and processes over processes and layers of management. It's not just employees or anything like that. Again, they became CEO because they are good at blaming. Like lots of these CEOs have never been entrepreneur before. They just come into the companies, work 9 to 5. For work-life balance in general, there are many consequences of bad work-life balance. But here I will talk about the main 5 consequences. The first consequence of bad work-life balance is health damage, which means that health insurance costs and Medicare later in life. So here I'd like to show you an article. People essentially nowadays pull 996 performance for 9 to 5 salary. Here it's like physical health problems from stress. The health problems here, research on British civil servants in 2006 highlights a connection between work stress and metabolic syndrome. Of course, this here, the Harvard Medical School summarized the result. People who work 55 or more hours a week increase their risk of heart attack by 13%. There's another article here on BBC. 750,000 people are dying from ischemic heart disease and stroke due to working long hours. Yeah, working long hours is really bad for your health and your heart. Overwork is the single largest risk factor for occupational disease, accounting for roughly 1/3 of the burden of disease related to work. Wow, that's like 33%. There's another article on HubSpot, like 10 reasons why overworking is bad for your health and your career. A study investigating primary cause of stress for Americans in 2023 concluded that workload was the key contributor to stress, affecting 39% of workers, followed by interpersonal issue, 31%, juggling work and personal life, 19%, and job security, 6%. Yeah, if you are losing sleep overnight because of long work hours, then that's very dangerous. I believe that I heard somewhere, or I read from somewhere, that if you sleep for 4 hours or less, you actually double the amount of cancer cells that you produce in the next day or so. Stress can get in the way of healthy eating habits, yes. Even for me, sometimes I eat excessively on the days I'm stressed. It also happened to me. Okay, so beside the damage to physical health, there's also damage to mental health, right? So this is the second consequence of bad work-life balance. It can really damage your mental health. It causes depression, suicidal thought, etc. And it really can damage your life. And so here I can show you an article. Overworking has some detrimental effects on mental health and doesn't necessarily lead to better productivity. Yes. Essentially, you can really get depression and anxiety, emotional exhaustion, tension headaches, emptiness or lack of interest in work or home life, worsen sleep, bad habit, substance abuse. It can really lead to suicidal thoughts and etc. And in many workplaces, there are many artificial deadlines, fake deadlines created to help somebody promoted. They are not actually deadlines that are critical to the project. It adds further into the stress of 9 to 5 workers. From an article here, burnout mental health impact. Over the past 4 years, years, physical overexertion has been the second leading cause of injury and illness, which kept employees from being able to go to work. So you can totally become disabled because of mental health impact from bad work-life balance. And here, WHO consider depression the leading cause of disability. Mental health has a huge impact on global economy. Depression and anxiety now cost $1 trillion every year due to lost productivity. Pushing employees to work harder and disregard everything else is not a good way to improve people's productivity and really help the company's bottom line. So yeah, the third consequence of bad work-life balance is family damage. The time away from your kids and your family can really cause and wreak havoc into your personal life. Work is created for the sake of work to keep us busy most of the time. And if we miss a deadline, we can always deliver it eventually. But most deadlines, especially in engineering, are fake artificial deadlines for management to impose pressure and control on employees. You can recoup your deadline, you can chase your deadline a little late, but missed time with family can never be recouped back. Even if we talk about just pure money terms here, if you simply ignore your marriage for the sake of work and career and then being hardcore and then getting divorced, your spouse takes half of what you make. So whatever you have made, you divide it in half essentially. I believe that a family with both parents is the optimal family structure, both financially and emotionally for the children. So here I can show you an article here. So children first, why family structure and stability matter for children. So yeah, if you put your children and your kids first, most people go to work and they say they go to work to raise their children. They go to work to put food on the table. But if you really put your children first, maybe you should pay attention to work-life balance and not just the money. Your children don't usually need your money. Like, I never wish that my parents have more money or, become rich or anything like that. But what we usually wanted when we were young was just time with our parents. Research evidence indicates that on average, children who have two parents who are committed to one another and stable home life and more economic resources. Yeah, so more economic resources actually is the third criteria. Advantage of being intended or welcomed by their parents are more likely to flourish. So essentially, it's very important that we, maintain work-life balance for our children. Okay, so beside the damage to mental and physical health as well as the family, the fourth consequence of bad work-life balance is the opportunity cost associated with foregoing side projects or hobbies due to excessive work or commitments. People pushing for ridiculous long hours at work while neglecting other opportunities in front of them that can help diversify and increase their income and wealth at the same time are making a fool of themselves. We're living in a new era where a 9-to-5 job is no longer the pathway to the American dream. The way to achieve American dream, I believe, is to do side hustle, side gigs, side business that provide extra income streams. You can just look at me. I'm an ex-Google, ex-Tesla senior software engineer making 6 figures for 4-5 years in a row. We as senior software engineer at big tech companies earn as much as lawyers in our area. And when buying our own house, this house right here, with 2 salaries, it was really, really competitive. There's no way we can maintain this standard of living with the current inflation rate if we don't do side hustle or side contract gigs, even when we have 2 salaries in this household. If even a high-skilled worker like me cannot afford the cost of living in the United States, which is my salary, then I believe that many other 9-to-5 workers will struggle. The final cons of a bad work-life balance is low hourly rate. When you work on any type of 9-to-5 job, you have to look at the rate per hour. This is especially true for salary employees as opposed to hourly employees. Most people look at only total compensation. But say you are a software engineer making 120k a year working 6 hours versus making 150k a year working 12 hours. Who make more money per hour, right? So essentially you work twice the amount of hours, but you make like 25% more money. Thinking about rate per hour would help you understand why work-life balance is so important, way more than total compensation. Because in my humble opinion, when talking about how well compensated one is, it is their rate per hour, not the total compensation. A high compensation that requires enormous amount of work hours coupled with extra medical and mental health doctor visit costs, when you divide them by the hours, they are most likely not worth it. That's why I believe on the surface, good work-life balance companies may pay lower total comps compared to bad work-life balance companies. But in my own experience, when you divide total comp by the real hours worked, these good work-life balance companies usually pay much higher hourly rate than higher total comp companies. Also, you need to think about the scalability of the job and not just hourly rate. Most people trade time and health for money and work to get paid per hour, essentially what is shown on their 9-to-5 W2. But there are jobs out there that actually can scale up even though you put in the same amount of hours in. For example, entrepreneurship, content creation, In entrepreneurship, you can scale up your impact by scaling up the amount of people working for you. In content creation, you simply scale up by making more engaging content with more evergreen content that attracts the viewer. But with all of the above misconceptions and consequences of bad work-life balance, before talking about the approaches you can take to maximize work-life balance or work-life harmony, I would like to drop some more truth bombs and mindset shift needed to maximize work-life balance. Because I believe everything starts with a mindset. First, I believe we should view our work as a profession rather than just a job. Profession means that you want to stick with what you are doing indefinitely, or at least until retirement. Before taking any career changes, I usually imagine myself being an old person and ask myself, can I keep doing this, having kids, family, responsibilities, having grandchildren, etc. And if the answer is no in any of these areas, I know I need to choose a different direction. Second, even if I have finalized a profession or passion, I usually reflect on whether it's sustainable to pursue this profession or passion in the long run. I believe this is something you should pay attention to because, as I said above, even when you pursue your passion, you may still get burnout. As your health decreases and family responsibilities go up, you have less and less time than ever before, and worse health than younger years to perform at higher level expectation. Literally, if you have families and other obligations, you will have to trade your families for some job, just over broke, just to stay afloat. It is funny that companies nowadays want more and more experienced candidates instead of inexperienced ones, but the ones with experiences are usually also older and burdened with other responsibilities outside work. So employers essentially want double standard. They want the best of both worlds. Someone with experience of a 65 years old retired professional, but in a way younger body, with much better health like an 18 years old, with no family responsibilities. Okay, I'm not against that, but these companies would have to shell out some real dollars to get these candidates. However, most of them just pay pennies like 9 to 5 salaries for 96 performance, with a 65 years old experience, but in an 18 years old body. Third, even if the path to pursue the profession or passion is deemed sustainable, it is important that one must brutally set strong boundaries between rest and work and respect these boundaries. In addition, one should find jobs or workplaces or found ventures that prioritize impact of the work rather than hours logged. In one of my previous videos, I've said that there is essentially no limits on working harder. Companies are trying to squeeze out as much as they can from you. There's no limitation on working harder. You can literally work 24/7 or 16/7 if you want. It is totally not worth it. The way I look at work-life balance is this: I'm a human and not a machine. I only work 40 hours a week. My work should be judged on the impact delivered, not how many hours I work. Fourth, even if you are desperate to find a job, you should still prioritize work-life balance because it gives you leeway to perform the job in the long run. Even if you are laid off, say you get into a new job with bad work-life balance, how long would you be able to stay in that job before getting fired? Successful people think in abundance and think in the long term. They don't think in the short term like, oh, I need this next job ASAP. But how long would you stay in this upcoming job if it has terrible work-life balance? And finally, I would like to point to some successful individuals who have become successful thanks to prioritizing abundance and long-term goals over immediate needs. Many CEOs who push their reports to the brink of health collapse and going hardcore actually still keep a minimum amount of work-life balance. For example, Jeff Bezos sleeps 8 hours a day, not 4 or 5 hours like many other people promote. And I can show you the article here that I found this. He said, going crazy with 4 hours isn't worth it. Elon Musk pushed at least 6 hours a day too. And thus his old routine hurt his brain. So these CEOs, they realize that we are humans after all, and there is a limitation to our health. There is a limitation to how many hours you can push a day. This shows that no matter how passionate you are with what you are doing, as human beings, we have certain limits in terms of health and concentration. Working all the time and sleeping only 4 hours per day are unsustainable for all of us. Okay, so with the misconceptions, consequences, and mindset shift needed to ensure work-life balance or work-life harmony above, what should you do as a 9 to 5 worker to identify companies that have poor work-life balance? I have another entire video on this topic, but I would like to bring up some crucial points in this video. If you want to learn more about comprehensive tips in details about identifying companies with bad work-life balance, please click the link in the top pinned comment down below. First, when you choose companies to apply to and interview with, avoid companies with unlimited PTO policies because these companies may have managerial barriers to taking time off. You should choose a companies with actual time off balance. You have to understand the companies look after themselves and not after the employees. Most unlimited PTO means that you have to get approvals from your manager for every single break that's longer than 2 weeks. I know like more and more companies are being shady nowadays, and since unlimited PTO has become more common than ever and the job market is being very tough right now, Even if you have to choose a company with unlimited PTO, avoid companies where typical employees take very little vacations or time off. Please note that you should not ask these questions directly in the interviews. I have another video showing you how to assess this during your interviews and research phase, and I have a link to that video down in the comments below. Second, you should avoid companies with red flags such as low stock vesting percentage in the first year or two. A great example for this would be Amazon. The vesting period for Amazon is like first year is only 5%, second year is 15%, and 20% for every 6 months of year 3 and 4. So it is likely that their workload is so high and unsustainable that they likely would burn out engineers, and most engineers would quit in the first 1 or 2 years. That's why they implement such a vesting schedule. Companies like this usually hire just to fire people, so they look good on earnings call. They hire people to show that they are growing and fire people to show that they are trying hard to maximize shareholders' value by lowering expense and optimizing bottom line profits. Third, you should avoid companies with absolutely high total compensation, which may indicate unsustainable workloads. There is such thing as too good to be true in the tech job market. An example of these companies are high-frequency trading firms. There is no free burgers here. The more money they pay you, the more they expect of you. If you want money, like FU money or lots of money, start your own side hustles, take on side contract gigs. Fourth, you should avoid engineering roles with on-call duties altogether. Not all software development requires on-call. Usually, the ones that require on-call just means that the company cheap out on paying their SRE, Site Reliability Engineer. On-call is not one-off, and usually, if something is seriously broken, that would involve the entire team firefighting altogether, including you. So software teams that require on-calls are usually badly structured and have bad monitoring automation tools in place in general. Fifth, you should do thorough research on the company ratings on the employee review section on platforms like Glassdoor or Teamblind. It gives insight into work-life balance and culture and management practice. These sites, especially Glassdoor, usually have more positive ratings in most metrics than reality. Because, HR people of most of these companies are really good at spamming and lying on Glassdoor for hiring purposes. So they go there, they put on fake reviews. Pay attention to negative reviews on these sites when it comes to your roles. Those who tell you a lot about the companies. If the company has bad ratings in any area on these websites, that means they likely will be even worse in that metric in reality. At Google and Meta, I believe engineering leaders' performance is also assessed on whether they burn out their engineers to hit targets. If engineering leaders are actually competent, their employees won't have to sacrifice work-life balance to hit target. Sacrificing work-life balance to hit target is a sign of bad management. As we come to the end of our discussion, let's recap the key points we have covered regarding the importance of prioritizing work-life balance in our career decision. We have emphasized the significance of viewing work and life as complementary aspects rather than opposing forces. It is essential to align our career paths with our passions and aspirations. Now, I encourage each of you to reflect on your own work-life balance preference. Take the time to consider what truly matters to you and actively seek opportunities that align with your values and goals. Remember, achieving work-life balance is a journey, not a destination. Lastly, I invite you to share your thoughts and experience with work-life balance in the comment section below. And that will do it for me today. Thank you for watching. See you in the next videos. Bye bye.